Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is my, what month is it? September? Yeah, my September reading wrap up. This month was a pretty good reading month, I feel like, for me. Let me just tell you the stats. So I read 7 books. I read 6 out of 7 books that I set on my TBR. Crazy, I know. I read 2,665 pages and my average rating was a 4.14. And the genres I read 4 romance, 1 dark romance, 1 fantasy, and 1 mystery/thriller. So I was definitely in my romance era. Let's just go ahead and get into it. The first book I read was Twisted Love by Anna Huang. I rated this 4 stars, but to be honest with you, I don't remember what it's about at all. I remember the girl's brother left town for something and his best friend started watching out for her, so it's like a brother's best friend trope. I'm pretty sure it's also like a Grumpy Sunshine type of thing. I really liked this when I read it, but for some reason the next book that I read, this just like went in one side of my brain and went out the other side. I don't really know. So yeah, I can't really say much more about it. I know I liked it and I will be continuing the series, but other than that, my brain can't recall, so sorry. Next, I read Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I gave this 4.5 stars. I loved this book. I feel like everyone and their mom has read this book besides me. The 3rd book in this series just came out, so I was like, okay, I really need to hop on the train because I had the first 2 books already, and I was like, okay, let me just go ahead and read it because I heard a lot of negative things, so I was just hesitant on picking it up. I just heard that this book was a lot of spice and little plot, but to me, I didn't get that vibe at all. This is basically a romance between an ice skater and a hockey player. Something happens with his ice rink, so he ends up having to practice with her and they have to share a rink together. So it's kind of like a forced proximity type of thing. But yeah, the plot of this I thought was so fun, so entertaining. I wanted to keep reading. It was very bingeable. And yes, there was a lot of spice because about this far in you get some spice and I was like, oh, was not expecting that. But it was still good. I don't know, I don't feel like the spice was weird or out of place in any way. It felt right, but it was I don't know how to explain it, to be honest. But I think this gets too much hate. I'll definitely be continuing and reading the next 2 books in the series. So. Trying to film a video. Thank you. Next book I read was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I gave this a 3.5. This follows a girl that is mortal and something happens to her parents and she has to go live in the fairy world, and in that world humans are frowned upon. Nobody likes them. So she's basically trying to fit in to the society of the fairy world and all of that. And then we have the Prince Cardin. They basically have an enemies thing going on. I feel like a lot of this book was also in one ear out the other. I don't really know. It was just weird to me because I really liked the beginning of the book and I really liked the end of the book, but the middle was kind of just bleh. But this is the first book in a trilogy, so I know obviously there has to be world building and stuff like that to go on. But I don't know, just from how hyped this series is online, I felt like it was going to be better than it was. But I'm still excited to continue the series. I am going to continue. I have the next 2 books and I feel like it's going to get better from here on out just because I know the romance is gonna be more. In this, there wasn't much romance, but the little crumbs that we got, I ate up. And I know there's more in the next 2 books, so I'm excited to see how that plays out and everything. The next book I read is Bad Blood by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the 4th book in the Natural series and I gave this 4 stars. It's definitely not my favorite in the series, but it still was really good. My ranking for the whole series would be All In, The Naturals, Bad Blood, then Killer Instinct. But if you haven't heard what the series is about, it's basically about a group of teenage kids. They have natural gifted abilities like profiling, lie detecting, all that jazz, and they take these kids, put them into the Naturals program, which is basically helping the FBI solve cases. In each book, you're solving a different case, but they're interconnecting with the kids' lives. I love this series so much, but this book specifically, I don't know, I feel like I was kind of getting confused at times because we were getting a lot of new characters, a lot of characters just in general, and it was kind of getting flipped up in my head. I was really having to lock in and pay attention to it. I don't know, I feel like it was almost too much for a last book, but it was still good. There was a bunch of plot twists that got me, and I really enjoyed it. So the next book I read is The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I rated this 4 stars. I really love this book so much. The only reason it's not higher is because the first half of the book I was eating up. I loved it so much, and then the second half kind of started to lose me. This is basically about 3 brothers, and their grandfather passes away, and in order to inherit his will and all of that, they have to each complete a task that he left for them. And his grandfather owned like basically what is imagined to be Disneyland. So the main character, Rowan, in this book, his task is to like make the company better, or like improve the company, work in the company, something like along those lines. And Zara, the female, is working at this place, so it's a workplace romance, and the guy is her boss. I really enjoyed this one. I am definitely continuing the series. I can't wait to see the next ones, because you get like glimpses of the other brothers in this book, so I'm excited to see their stories and what their task is and stuff. It's like a very cool, fun concept. And this is my first ever Lauren Asher book that I read, so I'm very excited to get into all of her other series and everything like that as well. Next, I read Magnolia Park's A Long Way Home by Jessa Hastings. 5 stars, please. This is the 3rd book in the Magnolia Parks universe series. Y'all see that? The tabs? Like, oh my gosh. This book ripped my heart out, put it back together, and then I ripped it apart again, and over and over and over again. I've rated every book in this series 5 stars. I literally love Magnolia and BJ so much. Like, this is definitely not for everyone. This series is not for everyone, don't get me wrong. It's very toxic. I think you should probably go into this in more of like a oh, it's fiction rather than like, oh, it's a romance, because it's not your cute little cheesy romance. It's a toxic romance, but it's amazing. I literally just feel so attached to these characters. Like, I can't compare it to anything else. This series, people basically describe it as Gossip Girl in the UK. That's basically what it is. It's about a group of friends, and they go through toxic friendships and relationships and life stuff. Definitely one of my favorite series ever. I can't wait to read the next Daisy Hates book, but I'm kind of sad because they take place at the same time. So it's like I'm restarting this book from a different character's point of view, and I have to wait because obviously there was a cliffhanger at the end, and if you know, you know. That's all I'm gonna say. The last book that I read in September was The Risk by St. Abbey. This is the first little book in the Mindfuck series. The Mindfuck series is a bind-up of 5 different like little novellas slash books. It's like a dark romance slash like thriller mystery. I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. My camera died, so I'm sorry if you're in like a little bit of a different position, but anyways, as I was saying before, it really interrupted me. It's basically about a girl. She is a serial killer, but she's killing people for bad things that they have done. We don't figure out what these people have done yet, but she meets this guy, and he turns out to be an FBI agent, and he's actually the lead detective on her case that they're trying to figure out who's killing these people, yada yada, and she's the murderer. So, but obviously he doesn't know it's her, so I'm very excited to continue, and it left off on a cliffhanger, so I'm very excited to jump into the next one. But I am trying to savor them because I've literally never heard a single negative review about this series, and that book was so fast paced. It was literally like 160 something pages, and I finished it so quick, and the writing is just like very bingeable. I loved every second of it, and I cannot wait to continue the rest. But yeah, that is everything that I read in the month of September. It was a pretty good reading month for me. I'm hoping that next month is just as good or even better. That is all for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.